Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Francis L. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you. I don't think I can say the name France without saying Sir Francis.
Sir. I mean, I'm sure Francis would be fine with that. You're now a sir. And also we have a sponsor today. Of course, we're talking about Manscaped. And right now, I think our favorite product is the Beard Hedger Pro. They've got a whole kit, but the star of the show is, of course, the Beard Hedger itself. Give you a good look at it there on the video. But my favorite thing about it is the easily adjustable, like, trimmer guide.
Yeah, so the thing on that you were showing is there's a dial for your thumb right on the handle, and that lets you how within millimeters.
It's like a 0.5 millimeter each, and you can alter it just on the fly.
So no removing and replacing length guards. You just have one, and you can just adjust it with just your thumb.
It makes it so easy to fade your sideburns into the side of your hair, or get different lengths on the fly. Like sometimes you want to do your mustache slightly shorter than the rest of your beard for whatever reason. You want to,
or maybe you wanted, or perhaps you wanted to go a little more creative, and maybe you wanted to bring back some facial styles such as mutton chops.
Hell yeah! And we've got a new dude to thank at the end of this for with that name, but. Just in case you're wondering, you can remove the guard for cleaning and stuff like that. I wouldn't go raw with this guy. It's pretty sharp. But you could try it and tell me. Do you? But there's also other products that we love from, of course, the Boxers 2.0 and the ball deodorant
right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just so soft. Hugs the balls. But we're big fans of Manscaped products, and if you're interested in checking out any of their products, head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's code YoVG, all caps, at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you, and now so will your face.
Covered, yeah. Get you covered from crown to crotch.
Crown to crotch, yes. Crown to crotch is good
because they do have shampoo that I use.
Yeah, well, I don't go through shampoo very fast. I think the one bottle they've sent. Yeah, it's too bad it's not for my back hair, huh? Disgusting.
You could use it. I'm sure it'll work.
But speaking of heroic moments, like taking care of your back hair. Video games kind of having a Marvel moment.
Yeah. It's you said it, and I was already thinking of it before I even said it. I said, video games kind of had this sort of perfect storm moment, and I was gonna say, but you already did. It's a Marvel moment where thinking back to, I think it was 2008, 2009, maybe it was earlier than that, when Iron Man exploded, and then it just kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Do you remember that it was a Paramount movie?
Yeah,
before Disney bought it.
It was one of my favorite things about Iron Man is how much of a gamble it was for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
truly at the time, if you don't remember, or maybe you weren't into the movie nerd scene, how heavy the debates were, how much of a mistake it was to get Robert Downey Jr. and how Jon Favreau had to go to bat for Robert Downey Jr. But Marvel executives didn't believe, and Jon Favreau had to fight really hard and put a ton of his cred on the line. And it's just the idea that was even a debate now, right? I think that's probably the least.
Yeah, that's funny because I remember, because I was there when they were first showing it, or not first, but they were showing it off at Comic-Con, and I remember thinking oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm Robert Downey, perfect. An alcoholic character being played by a guy recovering from drug addiction. I think that's what it was. I'm
probably both. It's probably
I
both.
mean, like, it just seemed like actual perfect casting to me.
And I think there wasn't like high hopes for Iron Man. The thing is,
I think they weren't really
nowadays
sure what to do because people don't know this. He's a C-lister.
he was, yeah.
Before the movie, like Iron Man was not in the zeitgeist or whatever the fuck. He wasn't in like the public consciousness. Like
No,
he's not Spider-Man. He wasn't Spider-Man. He wasn't Superman. He wasn't Batman. He wasn't Wonder Woman. He wasn't,
well, that's the big three right there. Is Spider-Man, Batman, Superman were the big three of who
yeah.
people generally knew that they're the comic book characters, right? Yeah, fucking people didn't know that Blade was a comic book character. They thought it was an original character when Blade first came out.
Yeah.
And God, did Blade get shit on? But like comic book movies were seen as at the very best a 50-50
hmm
and maybe a 25 out of 100 if it was anyone but Batman or Superman. That
Yeah,
includes
and
Spider-Man. Spider-Man before Sam Raimi like really
the problem kind of is like, okay, you had Christopher Reeves like Superman, 1 and 2, Richard Donner
right.
films, successful. You had the Tim Burton Batman that was pretty successful. Even Forever was somewhat successful.
Mhm.
You had Spider-Man and you had X-Men, which were kind of successful. So there was like some were successful and a lot weren't. So like I would argue maybe even 50-50 wasn't even really. It was closer to like a 40-60 or 70-30
Right.
with a lot of superhero movies where it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man were successful, and X-Men was successful, but I was like, man, like, have you ever seen like a B-lister or a C-lister like get up there? No, so
Right, and actually some of the best Marvel movies now are for like C-listers. Guardians of the
yeah,
Galaxy,
I mean,
nobody knew who the fuck.
I'm going to be honest, I'm well into my burnout phase
Oh yeah,
for
no, me too.
superhero movies.
I think
And
most people are.
yeah, maybe. I think that I mean I think we're definitely gonna get into that. Like the only one I'm like, oh, which one do you want to see? I'm like, I'll see Guardians 3 just to sort of finish that. Mostly
Mhm.
because I like Batista. But I think there was a trailer that came out today as they're recording this podcast, and I felt fucking nothing. I was like, oh, it's a movie, whatever. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
So,
I think Marvel Burnout really started when Endgame came out. Like it was just hard when that
and I
last
predicted it would because I was like, okay, this is the culmination. I think a lot of people are going to be like mostly good with this,
yeah,
afterwards.
done for a while. Need to take a break.
Yeah.
DC Burnout sort of never got to happen because DC really hasn't had its heyday yet.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, despite the legion of Snyder dick riders, DC never really took off because, like, no matter how much they might argue and say they how they are legion or whatever, it never translated to box office sales.
Right. I mean, like DC films did fine, but they never did Marvel. They never did that kind of explosion.
Aquaman did, and Wonder Woman 1 kind of did actually. Both were billion-dollar films, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't think any of the DC movies did like super bad. Right? Like,
I think Justice League did really bad.
oh well, no, Justice League did okay, but the recut
Justice
was
League, I should say.
Justice. But that was, I mean, there was so much bad stuff.
I mean, that
coming
was
out
like
about
bad.
it.
Problem. That's more bad relative to what it is and what it cost.
Right. And there was so much bad press circling it before it came out. I mean, the fact that it broke even, is just kind of amazing too. And I think it did better than break even. I don't know off the top of my head the box office numbers.
I think it was like around like 650 or something. I think.
Yeah, so nowhere near the hit they wanted.
Yeah.
But people are getting burnt out on it. Nobody saw the Marvel or the comic book movie explosion coming, which is why like Warner Brothers just wasn't fucking prepared. The way that Marvel just started exploding, Disney was truly on it with Marvel. Like they just sort of hit the perfect stride and went for it. And it's sort of the same thing that gets said about video game adaptations now was said about comic book movie adaptations at the time, that Iron Man was about to explode, right? Is like, oh, finally they're getting video game adaptations right. Well, what's the formula? Oh, they made a game. They made a movie that matches the game. Oh, duh. It's weird that you even have to say that, but like think about video game adaptations until the Mario movie or the Super Mario Brothers movie, and or before Last of Us TV show. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of a double whammy because on the streaming side of things, you had Last of Us, which was highly successful, hugely successful.
yeah,
It was like one of the rare cases where like it started big and then it kept gaining viewers.
yeah,
And
and it stuck relatively close. It stuck
highly
pretty close.
rated, highly liked, stuck very close to source material because source material was a fucking movie to begin with.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it worked. And then right after that, we get pretty much the complete polar opposite of Last of Us with the Mario Brothers. And it's the biggest animated opening of all fucking time.
I haven't seen it yet. I know that there's like critics got down on it or something like that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Kenny's been on kind of like a tear about it, where like he I can't believe these critics. Like, what was wrong with them? Like, here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you, I'm taking this as a measured response. Okay, like here's what the Super Mario Brothers movie really is. It is a bigger equivalent to the Transformers 1986 film, the animated Transformers movie. Because for the people who know what Transformers are, it is everything they fucking wanted. It is their watershed moment. To someone who knows nothing, I mean nothing about video games, it is fucking incomprehensible. Maybe not incomprehensible. Transformers is incomprehensible if you don't know Transformers. The Mario Brothers movie just seems like just fucking random shit happening.
But it's all references to the games and stuff.
Well, okay, so for example, the movie basically starts with like one of the trailers where it opened with Bowser invading the ice, like this ice kingdom of penguins, and he takes their power star. Right there is again, put yourself in the mindset you know nothing about video games. This movie opens. There's this ice kingdom and little cute penguins guard it, and this boat comes down and all these turtles come out, and then this magic turtle comes out and he does some magic stuff, and then this big turtle with spikes comes out and he breathes fire and melts them, and he smashes a box, and there's this big 5-pointed glowy star with eyes on it, and then he's like, and he's really happy about that, and that's fucking it. like they don't, there's no like, this is the Mushroom Kingdom, it was founded and blah blah blah. There's no explanation to who Bowser is, where he comes from, or what it is. Like, it's Bowser, he's a bad guy, he wants this power, he wants the superstar.
Yeah,
that's good. That's just yeah, that's it. Like, so you got to understand, like, everything that happens in this movie makes 100% sense to anyone who's played the games. If you're an old fucking boomer who they've never fucking touched a video game, this is just going to seem like random nonsense to you.
Fair.
Like,
no.
I mean, okay, it's a spoiler, but whatever. Like, I feel there's a moment in the movie where Bowser basically, he goes into fuck it mode and he just says, launch the Boomer Bill, the big giant bullet bill. And Mario in a Tanuki suit, flies in front of it, and he does like the classic like tail whack, like the same like post. He whacks it in the eyeball, and then it looks at him, and then it chases him, and he gets that, and that's how he gets this giant bullet bill to like not crash and blow up the Mushroom Kingdom, by getting it to follow him, and then he sends it through a warp pipe, and like, and this is exactly what you do in the games.
Yeah.
Especially in the 3D Mario games, where the bullet bills will, like, you see their eyes get red when they see you and they follow you.
It's sort of like it did the opposite of what the Dungeons and Dragons movie did. I don't know if you saw that yet.
I saw that.
It's very fun. Where like they made it where it's full of references for anybody who's played Dungeons and Dragons, but you don't need to have played Dungeons and Dragons at all in order to find it funny. But there's like a bunch of stuff they don't bother explaining that is extremely funny if you've played the games. And I happened to see the movie with a couple of older boomer dudes, like actual genuine boomers, not just saying that derogatorily, like they are of that generation, who had never even heard of Dungeons and Dragons. One, how the fuck? But two, they had never heard of it. And so like they would grumble a little bit of like, I don't understand. Is that a reference to something? I mean, 100 times one would lean over to the other and be like, I don't get it, but that's funny. And it's like the fucking paladin walking in a straight line, or like nobody having high enough intelligence to be attractive to the mind flayer spawn. You know, like that kind of like inside joke, which is a funny moment on its own in the movie, is like doubly funny if you know that the stats for each of their classes don't, like that kind of stuff. And I go back and forth. Like, part of me is like, yeah, Mario doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, like there's a point where like in the movie is a little rushed because it's like 85, 88 minutes or something like that.
Yes, good.
Where like they meet, like Peach immediately meets Mario and it's like, oh, like she's like, I need your help. Okay, well, let's see what you got. And then like she takes him like a training course, and they do one thing where she's like, we hit, take these. She hits a question block. Mushroom comes out. Eat these. They give us powers, and that's it.
Nice.
And Mario's like, he has a joke where like Mario in the movie doesn't like mushrooms, like he doesn't like eating mushrooms, so he's like, and like eats a mushroom. And then he gets a power, but he gets big, and he's like, okay. They don't explain. That's it. Like what I said is it. Like we use these power ups. They give us they give us powers. If you know nothing about video games, this seems just like random fucking gibberish. Like what? There's just hanging yellow blocks and they eat mushrooms that come out and it just gives them powers. Like that makes no fucking sense. I'm like, play a fucking video game.
Right. And also though, it doesn't, even if you've never played it, does it need to just accept it? Just accept the thing and enjoy the ride. It's like you don't get on a roller coaster and fucking just not accept what the roller coaster is doing. It's like there's a flip.
And again, spoilery, but I think at this point you're the last person who hasn't seen the movie. But like, there's this great
I'm
moment.
Probably the only person.
There's a great moment in the middle of the movie where like Mario, like they're basically they literally they have you see it in the posters. There's a Rainbow Road sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually a fucking Mad Max nod, where like the Kong army is fighting the Koopa army on Rainbow Road, and they're all in like these souped up vehicles, and there's this point where like Mario needs to like he needs to get up to Peach, and he's like being attacked and he's swerving, and as he's drifting you see like the engine go spark, and then boom, he gets a boost and he skips he jumps off one edge of the course to land on on another part below, and he gets a boost from sliding because that's a fucking game mechanic. And then there's like this big fucking Mad Max fight with this Koopa captain or whatever, and like this big metal monstrosity machine, right? And DK helps Mario blow it up in this Mad Max like sequence, right? It's as cool as it sounds. And then he literally walks out of the fires like the Terminator, and he looks at Mario and Donkey Kong like riding one. He's like, "You can never escape me, Blue Shell." And like he goes into a shell and he's a Blue Shell Koopa, and he flies over, circles above him, and like nukes Mario DK and blows up the Rainbow Road. And people are like, well, why didn't you just do that to begin with? And I'm like, because it's a Blue Shell. Like that's a moment. That's a Mario Kart thing. It's like this fucking wonder. Like one, they throw a Terminator 2 reference in there just for fun, but then it just when you realize what kind of Koopa he was. Oh, he's a blue shelled Koopa. Oh shit! Everyone who's played Mario Kart, which is tens, if not hundreds of millions of people at this point, like we can count them who own it. Everyone will be like, holy shit, that's awesome. Blue shell moment.
So is this also going to be in 10 years? We're going to have nothing but insane amounts of content on YouTube about all the references you missed in blah, blah, blah movie. And it's like, yeah,
I mean, there already are videos
in the franchise and blah, blah. And it's like, fuck.
There's dozens, if not hundreds, in this movie. Like everything is just.
Oh, I'm sure, but it's just going to be. It's going to be everything we hate about Marvel movies is now going to be in video game movies. It's just going to be.
Yeah. Well, the thing about this one is it's not like this weird, obscure like thing like a comic book 50 years ago. It's like it's part of the movie, really,
right,
for the most part. There is stuff that's in the background, like there's like a little. Like a storefront will have at one point in the movie, there's a store in the background that has the Disc Kun mascot character, which was a mascot for the Famicom Disk System only made in Japan. This has no relevance to the plot, and it's not. It's just
Focused
a
on.
thing in the background.
I-
So it's
I
not
think-
like you needed to get this. No, that's just like, oh yeah, like they just threw this symbol on this street sign or this store window somewhere in the background for fun. You know, that's kind of like what an Easter egg is supposed to be. But then there's more. He's like, oh, why did Mario's like go-kart start like, you know, bursting into flames? Because he was sliding, because that's the mechanic in the video games. Like if it's a mechanic in the video game, they use it in the movie to advance the plot or advance the action scene.
Yeah.
It's cool if you know it. Most people do. And then like, but again, I think this is where the problem with the critics, where they're just like, I don't fucking get it. This is nonsense.
Well, I do think this is an interesting. Comic book movies started getting a lot better when comic book fans were the ones writing
Yeah.
and directing. Video game TV show really good when a video game fan or video game director is in charge of making it. Video game movie gets really, really good because it was basically Nintendo that made this movie. Really, like that made,
Yeah.
you know, and they cast a bunch of video game fans, a bunch of fans of that video game in the movie, right?
Well, they got a couple at least.
Well, Seth Rogen and Jack Black definitely.
Yeah,
are.
absolutely. And and you can tell because they fucking love their parts. They love their parts way more than the others.
They're just having a great time.
I would say Keegan-Michael Key actually also seems to be like fucking digging the fact that he's in this movie.
He also just seems like a person who is a great time to work with in anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever heard of him not being a good time to work with. Like, he just seems enthusiastic. So you can't really necessarily know that he's a huge fan of Toad, but he's great.
I think he's just happy. I mean, if I had like a main role in a Mario movie, I'd be happy too.
Yeah, and Charlie Day's supposed to be a big fan of Mario too.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
he's like he actually makes like the perfect Luigi.
Yeah, and he's semi has a pitch sold on the Luigi's Mansion movie, possibly.
I think that pitch is. There's an interesting thing that said like on Monday, every major studio is going to be having emergency meetings about video game adaptations.
Oh yeah,
like some film guy was like, you know, starting this Monday, every single fucking movie studio is going to be having meetings today and seeing what they have and what they can snap up and what are they. You're going to start seeing stuff just immediately start getting greenlit.
And whoever is the company that can do what Disney did and have a unified like plan, a unified slate, they're going to dominate, and everyone else is going to be in that sort of DC flux that WB's been in for the last 15 years. And I don't know who
Nintendo's the one in the best position for it because they have Smash Brothers.
Well, you would think that Sony is in a good position. Sony is a movie studio, and they have a bunch of narratively driven games that basically already have.
But they're also not
plots.
because like Last of Us was an HBO Max thing, and then Uncharted was their Sony Pictures thing, and and that went through like major rewrites. And like,
I know,
and they've got like God of War and Ghost of Tsushima both kind of like sitting in dev hell. I imagine they might actually get out of dev hell quickly now.
I think Ghost of Tsushima is already now fast tracked. I think for sure it is.
Yeah, so Sony kind of, but like Nintendo actually has a thing where they can actually make a Smash Brothers later on, like and be like, hey, we're just because they can keep doing a bunch of animated films.
Right.
And then they can all have them meet up in a Roger Rabbit Avengers moment because it won't look that crazy. Like Sony can't really do that with Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima and God of War. We're going to make a PlayStation All-Star. Someone's going to say, yes, absolutely. No, they won't.
I mean, no, they can't do something like that, right? They're not all intertwined games. And yes, absolutely, Nintendo's in the best position to do like intertwined games.
Yeah, or just have a one-off where like, hey, Smash Brothers happens.
But in terms of properties that translate almost directly to movies, Sony has the most.
Well, Sony had the most, I think, easy to adapt.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like they should have a step ahead of everyone, but they don't.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think the film side doesn't respect the game side.
Or talk to them at all.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. That's just my own, but it seems
like I mean, everything I've ever heard from people who have worked with them, like there's no correlation, collaboration, nothing. Like they sort of
gonna be now.
There will be now.
There's
But you are
gonna be-
right in that sense where it's like, yeah, Sony has the most easy to adapt properties because
Uncharted should have been an absolute home run, and they somehow fucking. I mean, it wasn't terrible.
it did okay.
It wasn't awful. It just was not the Uncharted movie that people wanted.
Well, I mean, it's a weird Uncharted movie when was it Marky Mark is Sully, you know,
he wasn't even that bad as Sully. It's just they didn't even
like
give.
why is he Sully though? Why isn't he Nathan Drake?
Yeah, because they wanted to go young so they could do a zillion fucking movies.
But then like I have nothing against Tom Holland, but he looked like a high schooler at a convention cosplaying Nathan Drake.
The thing is I agree that they shouldn't have gone that route. I think they should have gone with an adult Nathan Drake for sure.
Yeah, well, apparently the reason they did go that route is because of Tom Holland. Like they're like, oh, well, Tom Holland's got like put his name front and center. That's good. Like they didn't want Mark to for some reason to lead the movie, be the one named star. Like they wanted Tom Holland because Spider-Mans were doing so much better.
Yeah, movie marketing is an ambiguous funnel of shit. I don't. There's a lot of marketers that know exactly what they're doing, and to be honest with you, they're in the minority of the marketing sphere. Let's say.
Think of how cool though, like to step back and say, like, here's Ghost of Tsushima, right? And it's like, what are they going to do with that movie? I'm like, well, they're going to do the dumb thing, which is not just cast the fucking actor to be Jin Sakai, because like the model in game is based on the guy who does his voice, and he looks like his face is based off his face or whatever, right? And he is an actor, but he's not a name star or anything, right? He's a guy working his way through Hollywood, right?
But
they won't cast him. They won't cast him to be the main character in the film, despite it being the most obvious fucking thing to do.
Well, this is what I'm saying: is if they choose to do the Marvel move, they could cast a no-name. They could do it because now they have evidence. Now an executive has evidence that they can just point to. See, if you just make a video game movie for the fans of that video game, it'll do well. Yeah, they have that evidence, right? They can point to that and go. It's Chad Stahelski, the John Wick director, is the guy who's currently, I think, in the seat to direct the Ghost of Tsushima movie. Maybe he's got juice right now. John Wick 4 coming out. He might have the juice right now to argue for that actor. I don't know, but I think something that I wanted to go back to really quick is like the sort of reception of the Mario movie is what I thought was going to happen with Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Because Pokemon's such an obvious, like, easy way into video game movies.
Yeah. And kind of interestingly, both Sonic movies did very well, but they didn't blow up like this one is.
No, they didn't. And Sonic movies didn't get like they're video game movies, but they did the half live action. Maybe that's the thing.
They went because it was like they dipped their toe in. They went into the shallow end. They went ankle deep.
Right.
Where it's like it's a hybrid and it's still in the real world. And like the more they leaned into it with 2, and 2 was more successful than 1, and people resonated with 2 more than 1. It was kind of like I can almost imagine certain people on production of that movie just going like, see, we should have just fucking gone, all in on just making a animated Sonic movie.
Well, I do think one thing that the Sonic movie benefited from is that Jim Carrey is such a draw. Like he goes all in on like a goofy character, like Eggman.
Who?
Eggman.
Robotnik.
Yeah, Eggman.
Robotnik.
Eggman Robotnik.
His name is not Eggman in those movies.
Dr. Eggman.
Dr. Ivo Robotnik.
That's weird. Ivo's a weird middle name for Eggman. Anyway, the point is like Jim Carrey going all in on Robotnik is probably part of the reason that the movie did as well as it did.
It's that and the fact that the characters are more or less faithful to their character representation.
Yeah, like there's
differences.
We're half an hour in, and really all we're just saying is like be faithful and people will be happy with it.
Yeah, well,
Resident
okay,
Evil
so
up with a
but what
raccoon
you're saying
kitten.
with Pikachu though is interesting because I have a weird theory about Detective Pikachu, and it's funny because I think the same actor was in D&D. This is in Detective Pikachu, who played the
Yeah,
mage.
he plays the
And I have nothing against that
sorcerer.
actor because he was doing the job he was given to do, but his job in Detective Pikachu was to be a wet blanket. And it's so weird to me because technically it's not the first Pokemon movie. It's not the first Pokemon movie in theaters
Nope.
because there's been 20 animated Pokemon movies, and at least 2 or 3 of them actually made it to theaters in America. First one did
Yeah,
really well too.
yeah,
But
one of
anyways,
them did really well. I got like the Mewtwo card that they
yeah,
gave out for going to the
yeah, yeah,
midnight
yeah.
showing.
So Detective Pikachu comes out. It's like it gets the live action version of it. It's not like, oh, Pokemon comes to the real world or whatever. It's just live action Pokemon. Here's the problem though with the character in that movie is that he doesn't want to be a Pokemon. Like, I don't like Pokemon. I don't want to be a trainer. That was all just in the past. I don't like. You have a Pokemon movie that's introducing the awe and wonder of living in a world with Pokemon, and your main character is this wet blanket who doesn't like Pokemon.
Yeah,
What the fuck? And to me, that was a stage one, day one writing kind of like faux pas or whatever. Just like,
we to be kind,
you
we'll call
realize
that
what you're doing here.
an odd choice.
And the movie
Yeah,
did well, but it didn't blow up. It isn't the Marvel moment, if you will, for video game movies, the way like Mario is turning out to
it
be.
wasn't. And the thing is like that actor, very charismatic in the D&D movie. Like
Yeah, oh
does a
no, I
great
think he does a great job. It's just
and
kind of
is
like,
also
wow.
kind of a wet blanket in that movie. He is the downer of that group.
But he's given like a good arc, and in the
Right.
Pokemon movie, his arc is just like, well, like I don't like my dad, he left me or whatever. Like, and then he gets over like there was more. I felt like he had, as a side character, he had more character things, more character arcs, more dynamic to do in the D&D movie than he did in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, well, I think the D&D movie, what it really proved is that he as an actor is very charismatic on screen, and that the Detective Pikachu movie was really just like the writing. Because it could really fuck your career if you seem like you're dour.
Yeah,
Like if you can't put a little wink into it. It's one of those sort of double-edged blades where like you cast the charismatic actor, but they're always going to do it with a little bit of a wink, like we're in on the
yeah,
joke. We're in on the joke of it being a video game movie. It's actually sort of the thing that makes Chris Pine so wonderful is he never gives that wink. He's always 100% committed to how fucked up, the character is or whatever the character, like he's
yeah.
100% committed to it, even if it's Smoking Aces where he's playing a neo-Nazi redneck hick.
Wow.
Have you seen Smoking Aces?
Oh, I haven't even heard of it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, he plays, he's an assassin who is a white supremacist inbred hick, and he goes full bore, like, and he's playing like opposite Ben Affleck and like
Nice.
Jeremy Piven, and like it's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. Like it's one
Yeah.
of those movies where you're all like, I can sit down and waste my time with this. Ryan Reynolds is the star. It's fucking it's not a great movie, but you'll have a good time watching it. Anyway, I think what we're going to see, and I'm not sure what the next follow-up is going to be, because the trap I don't want to happen, I don't want it to be where every video game movie is animated only. Like, I don't have anything against animated movies, but if they go, oh, the reason why those other movies weren't hitting is because they weren't fully animated like the Mario movie.
I would say it would absolutely be fine if they're all animated, but here's the problem. And I think you're kind of, probably what you're saying is probably like what I'm getting at here is like they could all be animated and it could all be great. However, they won't be.
Yeah, they
They
won't
won't
carry
be
into the
made like,
Marvel.
okay, God of War and Ghost of Tsushima are M-rated games. They will not make an R-rated or even a PG-13 rated
Right.
animated movie. That's the problem. It's not the animation that I think is the problem. It's the fact that they might look at Mario and go, everything's got to be for kids. Like, we
Right.
got to have like this animated movie for children. Like everything, like, Del Toro's fighting against. That's the problem, is that they might look at the Mario movie and just say like, well, the solution was to make it an all ages, fan catered, friendly, family friendly affair, and it's like
Exactly.
no, that's Mario. That works great for Mario, but
give me a live action adult version of Bloodborne. Those aesthetics in a movie would look so fucking cool. Give me an animated version of Bloodborne, fine, but like give me a blockbuster Bloodborne.
if Bloodborne looked like fucking Ninja Scroll or Wicked City or Redline or something like
Oh
that,
yeah, it would look great.
it would look great, but they're never going to do that.
Right, and animated movies don't tend to have the draw that a live action movie is. Like if you get a live action Ghost of Tsushima, like you can get like you could go for awards season. I mean, just
Yeah,
the
and then,
visuals
what else you could do is kind of what Fury Road did. You could have a black and white version.
Oh yeah,
of Ghost of Tsushima if you film it right. That'd be fucking cool. I mean, like to me, like some of the marketing rights itself there.
Well, I mean, look at the Easter eggs that they could do at being video game movies where, I mean, they don't do DVDs anymore. That's too bad. But having different filter sets, basically like different LUTs applied to the films, where like if you watch the movie once, you unlock the black and white version.
Yeah.
You watch it 5 times, you unlock the hero or the villain filter or
this
whatever.
Is like some near shit.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of shit you can do with a video game movie targeted directly at video game fans that would do it. But one of the things that I think that this will do that I'm hopeful for is finally maybe someone will see this and go, oh, if we just made a Resident Evil movie that was
and there's a rumor that they're rebooting it again, starting with 0.
Yeah.
And then going like in chronological order of the games from 0. I don't know why you go 0 or whatever.
Yeah, but it's a Paul W.S. Anderson deal.
Well, he's a producer on it, so
it's gonna be fucking
Although he might have more pressure than ever now to like, okay, you need to you had your fun doing, your My Wife Is So Awesome fucking franchise of films, but look how much money the Mario movie's making. You need to do a faithful one now.
The thing is he was so successful with those movies. I don't think anyone will question any decision he makes.
That's also true.
He'll come in there and no one's going to have any pushback.
Although his career got basically torpedoed with the Monster Hunter movie, though, which was a video game adaptation.
Well, yeah, I mean that was. I don't even want to go into the Monster Hunter movie. Shit, I forgot about that movie. I think that one thing that will be easier now, pitching a video game movie, you're no longer going to have the taboo. Where like if you're not Paul W.S. Anderson or Uwe Boll pitching a video game movie, you're already fighting uphill. Paul W.S. Anderson would pitch a video game movie to his investors, and they're all like, "Yeah, you're the video game movie. Yeah, all right, yeah, here." And you print money with Mila Jovovich. Great. I don't think you have to be either of those two guys. You want to be a hack like Uwe Boll, who only makes terrible versions of video game movies as a tax fraud scheme, basically. Maybe not fraud, but it's a tax scheme. Yeah, it's a loophole scheme. He doesn't give a shit about how the movie does. He makes money no matter what. But my point is like now you're a fan of the video game. You can write a faithful adaptation and actually you will get real eyeballs onto it. Like people who actually, creative executives who will make it happen.
There is another side to this. There's another half of Mario movie success, and I think it coincides right at the same time they opened Super Nintendo World in the West. Now it's been in Japan, but Japan has they really embraced their isolationist history ways, with COVID. So we didn't get it when we got like a smaller scale taste of it, and there's going to be a full scale taste in Florida in a couple of years. But there was something kind of interesting because I recently went to Super Nintendo World. My girlfriend had a birthday recently, and she wanted to hit up Super Nintendo World, so we went there and we had a great time. And just seeing it was sort of like, interesting because there's so many different thoughts floating in my head about like, I'll bet Universal probably now wishes they had destroyed more of the land around there to make more room for it. I'll bet this, I'll bet that. I'll bet like they're terrified of the fact that like as you know, my girlfriend even pointed out, I kind of wish there was a whole theme park of just Nintendo stuff, because she's right. Yeah. And it would have worked. It would work. Nintendo could do it if they wanted to. But this way they actually probably make way more money by having Universal do all the heavy work. And you know, and front a lot of the costs themselves or whatever. But Universal should also be terrified, because this thing has probably quadrupled, if not quintupled, their attendance for this time of year than what it normally is. Because the thing is, I enjoy like Universal Studios Hollywood, and I've gone this time of the year, you know, since the Harry Potter world open, which was sort of a big deal, right? But it would be dead as fuck this time of year. Like you could go on a weekday and you're gonna walk on everything all day long. You ain't walking on shit now. Everything. This is a rising tide that's lifted all ships. This park is packed. It is packed, and if people like, you know, and they have to cut off access to Nintendo World, and then everyone goes on everything else. So,
well, I don't think they're that mad about it then.
No, I don't think that bad. If anything, they're probably like, you know, probably should have put more space. But
well, that's how Harry Potter Land was for a good long time. Hogsmeade was
not even close to this though. Like, and I talked to some people who worked there, and they were like, there was actually a bit of a panic when Harry Potter first opened, because it didn't generate as many ticket sales as they thought. But then their panic was quickly overridden over the fact that, oh my God, but the merchandise, people were buying the shit out of stuff in Harry Potter World, which is what they weren't doing for anything else in the park when Harry Potter opened. So like Harry Potter didn't really, at least in the West, because it took so long to get to the Best Coast, that it didn't really generate huge new ticket sales. Because remember, like Mario World, or Nintendo World is really Mario World, but like Nintendo World has existed for a couple years in Japan, where it's been, and Japan has literally been cut off from the rest of the world by choice. Well, but not by, I mean, COVID, of course, which smartly, but then they were the last of the first world countries to open their borders. So point is that like people could not go to Super Nintendo World. They have not been able to go there like at all. So this is the first place in the Western world that they have one. And even though it's a smaller one, and it's like being at a really good booth at E3, the vibe and everything. And I think if there's one thing I want to just because I don't want this to be like a whole, like, let me describe to you everything about Super Nintendo World. Let me just say this one thing, and that is the thing they figured out here, which is better than any themed land in any theme park, is that they have figured out music. Every single spot in that land will play music specific to, when you're in Peach's castle, it plays Mario 64 castle music. When you're just in a hallway or a staircase that's just supposed to be like an underground level, it will play music relative to that underground area from whatever Mario game. You know, if you're like if you're near the sleeping piranha plant, it plays like the heart
snoring
music. Yeah, the snoring heart music. It will play like underground music. It'll play like when you do the mini, and there's a bunch of mini, because basically it's like a playground. And it'll play like victory, flag pole music when you win a video game or whatever. And then when you're in line, here's like, okay, so there's this huge, we went through the full queue of the Mario Kart ride, and the full queue makes you go into all these different rooms, which are initially themed after Yoshi's Island. And each room has a different background of a Yoshi's Island level. And it plays the music from that level specific to that level in each room, whether it's like the countryside level or the glistening caves level or whatever. And then you get into Bowser's, and you get in front of Bowser's castle, and it's playing Bowser's Star Reactor from Mario Galaxy. You go in and it's playing other Bowser themes and stuff as you go through areas of Bowser's Lair and stuff. They attuned each and every spot of this land to be musically like synced up.
Wow.
with all the different games.
I wonder how much this boosted sales of those games.
Yeah, and Nintendo did a sale. You know, I'm sure it went really well for them. Like we went to, when we even first thing me and my girlfriend did is we went to the Toadstool Cafe, and that cafe is fucking great. It's playing Mario music, but it's like they're like remixes, like meant to be like cafe style versions of Mario Galaxy and other Mario music. And then like you'll see all these windows with toads running around, and then like randomly the whole place will get dark, and like the power-ups on the ceiling will light up, and you'll see like Bowser's airship fly by the windows and start shooting bullet bills out and stuff like that. Like just, and then it lights up and goes back, you know, it has like this repeating schedule and stuff. And
wow,
they figured out what to do, and everyone is loving this except the fucking boomers and grandparents who are just fucking lost, which is actually isn't true, because there's some of the older people were like, you know, who play video games were like, this is great. You know, you could always tell like when someone was just like
loving it, and who,
yeah, when someone was completely lost, like, you know, the dad who's like the last time he had a moment of joy in his life was like, you know, blowing coke off a hooker's ass in Vegas, you know, in the 70s or something. You know, that's the last time he ever experienced joy in his life. You know, and he's just sitting there like grumbling, like, because it was packed. It was packed like the whole time. But like, you have to think about this. Donkey Kong's been around for 40 years, right? Mario Kart's been around for 31 years, like, and you know, DK's 42. These are decades old characters. These are there are generations there's multiple generations of people who grew up with Mario and love Mario, and this is childhood for them.
So is that one thing that like the video game Marvel moment, you know, that they'll outdo Marvel on? Like if they
yeah, I mean, if you've been to
Avengers,
yeah, I mean, if you've been to Avengers Campus, you know how it's fucking Six Flags with some stunt show people. Like it's because the thing is like Universal had to basically like they had to tear down a sound stage, and it's just in the back corner of the bottom part of the park, right? It is in the corner, tucked in, and they basically had to like make do with this little corner space to make Super Nintendo World where it is, right? And Disney had the same issue recently with Avengers Campus, where they converted Bugs Land from A Bug's Life at Disney California Adventure into event, and it is a shocking world of difference between the two. Disney was supposed to even their thing has like nothing. You walk in it, and it's like there's some modern futuristic looking buildings, and there's a Spider-Man building which has like some brick parts with like fake graffiti on it, and then there's nothing there. Like you walk through, there's kind of this part where like Doctor Strange comes out and does like bullshit, like, you know, magic show tricks, and then there's this big building where people do like a fake stunt show every once in a while, because they just decided not to make the big ride in the big Avengers building, so it just sits there empty all day with the Quinjet on top. And there's a Spider-Man ride, which is literally just you sit in a booth and play a Kinect game. And the amount of interactivity and just overall presentation is actually shockingly weaker for what Disney, because like, you know, in Disney's Avengers Campus versus what Universal did with Nintendo World in Hollywood. It's kind of like this thing where like I love competition because competition makes people actually try, but Avengers Campus is shockingly weak because Disney can't make Avengers or any Marvel stuff in Florida because of a contract where Universal bought it. I don't know if you know this. They have an Islands of Adventure Marvel Land in Florida at Universal Studios, or one of the Universal parks up there, because before Marvel was bought by Disney and when they're in the throes of bankruptcy, they cut a deal with Universal Studios. And Disney's basically tried multiple times to buy them out of that contract, and Universal's like, nope. so they can't do anything in Florida. So they have to. So when they had a little tiny spot of land, they did what I would call the absolute fucking bare minimum of what you would expect out of a theme park themed area in this day and age. It's just not. You have Pim's Kitchen, which. And a Spider-Man ride, which is and Doctor Strange will come out, and then sometimes and they have that flying, you know, dummy, the animatronic, not the animatronic, but like the test dummy that flies through the air as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's
There's a lot of really funny failure videos of that thing too.
Yeah, some of them are fake, and there is some real ones, but yeah, and it's crazy because like Nintendo did this whole thing with this power up band that you buy. You know, it's money, but like you buy this band, and there's literal achievements all throughout the land, right? And on the ride itself. And when you earn coins for doing this, and then like if you do mini games throughout the land, you can go do this Bowser challenge, Junior challenge, which is a Connect game. But like again, just to be real brief here, like there's a part where like if you go up these staircases around kind of like are hidden around this corner, and you go up to this area, you'll find these binoculars, and like you look through the binoculars, and it has projection mapping on them, so you'll see like shit, like blocks and shit flying that aren't really there in the Nintendo land. And if you look up into the sky, you'll see like this glowing spot. And if you zoom in on it, it zooms into Rosalina's like observatory, and you see like Rosalina fly and like wave in front of the binoculars that you're looking at. And then you get a gamer achievement. You get a stamp on the app for doing that.
I mean, so, that's sort of amazing.
There's like 100 things to do. There's like, oh, do this. There's like do this or do that or get a bonus on this mini game. Do this a number of times or whatever. Like they just hid shit all throughout the land. Like if you just see like a Mario sign somewhere, put your power band up to it, and you'll see like a Mario sprite glow on a wall, and then boom, you'll get like a gamer achievement. Oh, you found the hidden Bowser, like in the land. Like they do all this shit, to like just make you like being in like living in this Mario world kind of thing.
I wonder if Universal, because they sort of are going to benefit from how well the Mario Brothers movie's doing, if they're going to be on the bleeding edge of snapping up, rights to making video game movies. And making video game lands.
I would imagine Universal's probably immediately like, okay, well, let's keep this gravy train rolling.
Yeah, with Nintendo, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Because I honestly, for Universal, if they can snatch up just Nintendo, they'll be fine for the next 30 years.
Well, they would be able to do the Disney thing.
Yeah.
If they have the rights to all the Nintendo properties, I mean, if they do a good Zelda movie.
Yeah.
That's going to be...
to me, that's going to be such a... I feel like Zelda's a weird, tougher nut to crack than Mario is.
Well, because there is actually plot that you have to...
There is plot. It's been good, but it's generally... if they go with like the basic plot of like Link defeats Ganon because he invaded Hyrule, like that's setting themselves up for failure right there. That's like, okay, well, you're making the Warcraft movie all over again.
Yeah. But this time with a 7-year-old who
I don't know. Zelda's a hard nut to crack. I wish them well. Whoever wants to take him, I'm sure many writers would love to take a stab at it, but like, I feel Zelda's the most prone. Like Zelda's more prone to failure than maybe even Mario. That might sound crazy considering how bad the Mario live action movie is. Even though I think it's a blast, it's fun despite how terrible it is.
I mean, it is bad, but it is also a very good time.
Yeah, exactly. Or where I feel like a bad Zelda movie is just going to be cringe.
Well,
or boring.
Zelda's something that I'm not sure you could do live action.
I've heard people. It's funny because people said like, "Hey, they should Spider-Verse it, or they should do what have instead of Illumination have DreamWorks do it because Universal owns both now, and have them do like Puss in Boots: Last Wish." Like use that something like that style with it or whatever. The interesting thing I've actually found is that Paramount's actually they're actually doing something that's actually pretty risky, dangerous. They formed Avatar Studios, so they could do a whole lot more with the Avatar stuff. They're going 2D with their theatrical film. Like they're doing a 2D movie.
I don't know. I don't
apparently
think
that was a big debate, and they basically said, you know what? We're just going to be. They said if we did what Spider-Verse did, we'll just be riding Spider-Verse's coattails. Our success and our start was in 2D, and they want to keep it 2D.
I don't know if I'd call that risky or just smart. I think that's smart.
I think it could pay off really well. I think for when the Avatar fandom resurges. I think
Hmm.
a lot more of us we will much vastly prefer it to be hand drawn. And the animation studio that did Rise of the TMNT to
Oh,
do it. And
okay.
if you don't have to know, I've never watched the show, you don't have to, but like if you've seen clips of the action in that show, it's fucking insane. They really went with like, basically what is the Australian version of Studio Trigger, to
Wow.
do the Avatar movie. So I think that also could be a resurgence moment. And I think ultimately here, what Mario's doing and what could happen maybe with Avatar is that, for at least for 2D animation, I think people are just kind of done with Marvel and honestly by proxy a little bit Star Wars as well. I think Disney's days as the center of the media universe might be starting to wane a little bit.
Well, I think one of the problems that they had with Star Wars is they tried to do the same model they had for Marvel with Star Wars. They tried to basically they took every single property they had and they were like, how do we put it through the Marvel factory? And
Mm-hmm.
that just doesn't work. Like that roadmap doesn't work with things that aren't
Yeah.
comic book based, in my opinion. But
And like, I'm not saying that Star Wars is necessarily bad now. Like Andor is amazing, but
right, but Andor doesn't follow their roadmap.
yeah.
That's something that is gets left out. As Andor is the one property they have right now that doesn't follow the roadmap that they set up for the rest of the Star Wars shit. This might be our most like positive, optimistic episode we've ever done. So I'm going to end it on a positive, optimistic thing. What do you think is going to be the next video game movie that continues this? Like if what's the next one that they could bring out that you're like, it's the most promising to continue the video game movie rise?
What I want or what I think it'll be.
Ooh, what you think it'll be?
I think Donkey Kong will be next.
You think Donkey Kong's going to be the next thing that comes out?
Yeah.
What do you want it to be? You want it to be Ghost?
I would actually, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball here. And I know they've done this in Japan already. I would actually like to see a crazy live action Yakuza, but maybe do Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
I would actually like to see like Yakuza 0 like properly adapted.
As a show or as a movie?
Either or. It could really work as it would actually really work as a streaming show. Because you have a natural A and B plot with Kiryu and Majima.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
Yeah.
They could carry it all the way out to Kiwami too, because that's kind of where like that arc of the story ends. You could just adapt Yakuza 1, and that'd be fine too. But like to me, like that, my curveball is like, yeah, if they could I don't know, like you need to get like a really good director who can do the crazy balance between like having like good tense moments of just characters talking to each other and then just doing like insane balls out act, drop kicking a dude out a window kind of stuff.
Oh, and there's plenty. Well, I mean, we just talked about Chad Stahelski or whatever. I'm saying his last name wrong, but the John Wick director, because he is a stuntman, can get like he focuses so heavily on the action.
Yeah.
So with a
He's on
good
the wrong
writer,
game. He should be on Yakuza.
yeah, I sort of, I don't know. That's interesting.
I feel like we kind of left out someone in this whole discussion, and that's poor fucking Microsoft.
Well,
Remember they had a
chance with
Halo series and it came out, and then people were kind of like disgruntled with it, and then everyone forgot it existed completely.
Yeah, because one, it's not faithful. The thing is the casting for Chief, Pablo Schreiber, I actually was like super down with. I was like, Pablo Schreiber is a good actor, and he can pull off the stoic, Master Chief character very well. And I was even on board with the idea that they were going to expand him. He wasn't going to be dead silent most of the time. Like they were going to give him personality. I was on board with that. But from what I saw, and I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes, like they just mangled the fuck out of what made Halo good. I don't know. they had a real opportunity. They dropped the ball with that.
Well,
I
the
think
thing
we
is,
can
there's
all
so
move.
much lore now within the Halo games, the Halo books, the this, that, and the other thing. It's like, where do you even go? Do you if you just start with basic Halo, it's basically just aliens and Starship Troopers fucked, and that's Halo 1. If you just do Halo 1,
Oh, see,
and
I
then
think where you start is Reach.
Reach. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
you want to start at Reach, don't you?
Well,
What are you gonna do? Band of
because
Brothers in space?
well, no. See, I think you should do it the way the book sort of did it, where you're fighting separatists, and then in the end, like it gets to you get first contact as the midpoint, where
Hmm.
like all of a sudden the civil war comes to a dead stop because there's something outside force.
Hmm.
And then you get that fish out of water where we don't really know anything about this race that's trying to wipe us out.
The Covenant.
Right. And then Reach is this last stand where these super soldiers created for a completely different reason are just getting annihilated in this fight. And they're the only ones standing a chance. That's, I think, where you start personally. Then the second, whatever series or show or a movie is the
The
actual
problem, I
Halo
mean,
instance.
Reach is, you're probably right, because I think the reason you want to do Reach is because you can have an ensemble, or at least you can have at least 4 Spartans or whatever,
Right.
right? The problem with Halo 1, if it's like, oh, just adapt Halo 1, Master Chief is a Gary Stew. He is a male power fantasy stand-in, and you know I'm fucking right. Like,
Yeah.
especially in the first game.
I don't give a fuck. That's fine with me.
In the first game, you're the super soldier Spartan, who's, super awesome, amazing. You can regenerate, hell, like taller than everyone, got the cool power armor. You're just a male power fantasy in Halo 1. I'm not saying all Halo is just male power fantasy, the series. No, I'm saying Halo 1. Halo 1, if you were just to adapt just that storyline, it's and like, well, that's what John Wick is. Yes, John Wick is a male power fantasy as well.
Right.
Yes.
Halo 1 is shallow, is what you're getting at. There's not a lot of
Halo
depth
1
there.
is a lot of budget for not a lot of story.
Yeah. There's some really cool moments in Halo 1, and I think there'd be even better depth to those moments if Reach was the first thing General
Right, which
Audio
I
saw.
think you're right. Reach is the smart way to go about it, but they won't do that. They'll be like, no, we got to have a Halo ring, and we got to have
Optimism.
warthogs and people shooting aliens, alien invasion, and then Halo ring, and then popcorn aliens show up. And
Popcorn. Yeah, no, but ending on an optimistic route. Yeah,
here's what Microsoft property would you like to see adapted? I guess for you it would be Reach.
I mean, yeah, I would like to see Reach like the book adapted. There's, you know, Microsoft could have a lot of stuff adapted that would be really good, but Halo is the one that
if they followed exactly what D&D did, it can make a killer, funny, fun Fable movie.
ooh, yeah. Fable would be a good one. Now that they own all of Bethesda, they have a lot. They don't even have to do
Fallout.
Fable. They could,
I mean,
yeah,
I
they
feel
could
like
do
Fallout's
Fallout.
just sitting there waiting to be adapted at this point.
Yeah, who would you cast to be the lead in a Fallout movie? And why is it Christopher Pine? And why should Christopher Pine be the lead in all video game
Christopher
movies?
Pine would be a great fucking like vault boy.
Right?
You know,
He'd be
like
really good.
he was the stand-in, like, PR guy or whatever. But so he got a place in one of the vaults, guaranteed for him. So like, okay, yeah, you be our spokesperson, and then like he goes in the vault, and then you open up. Oh fuck, the world is shit.
He'd be really good. God, Ben. I'm like he plays the brother in Hell or High Water with Christopher Pine. I'm blanking on his name. Love that actor though. There's a
What
lot of
about
actors.
New Vegas even?
There's a lot of actors that would be really good in a New Vegas, any Fallout really. But New Vegas is probably the one that has the most interesting story in terms
You think
like that's
so?
the one. Yeah, that's the one everybody sort of
Gravitates towards, yeah.
and remembers. I mean, I guess the temptation would be to start with the very first Fallout game, but I can't even think of the story for the very first.
Well, 76 is technically the first, but the MMO or light MMO, whatever, technically, chronologically.
Right, but Fallout 1, the first Fallout game, I don't think I can remember the story, and that was more of a point and click, wasn't it?
I believe it was isometric. I believe.
Yeah. So what? Fallout 3 is going to be the one that they adapt.
Well, okay, I don't know this because this is how much we don't play Fallout, but like each Fallout game is like a different city,
Yeah.
or state, I should say. West Virginia was 76, obviously, because that damn fucking John Denver song. And it's like DC, I think, and other places. I forget where 3 and 4 or whatever,
Boston.
Baltimore or Boston or something. And New Vegas is Las Vegas. So yeah, I mean, it's just honestly, it feels like you could just pick any city you wanted. To put a Fallout game in, but like, I think Microsoft actually has probably a number of properties on their hands. They've got. I would imagine Microsoft's probably looking at this like they've tried over and over and over to get Halo off the ground, and every attempt has resulted in abject failure, much like the game series since Bungie left.
Well, they keep hiring people that want to adapt it. They keep hiring people that are all like, we'll change it to be better. Fuck you. Just make the thing. It's the
Maybe
same
stop
problem.
Changing it.
We
could do a whole episode, honestly, on how fucked Halo is as a franchise right now.
It
is not in a good place.
We'll definitely not pirate the series, and then we'll just do a whole episode breaking.
I'm not watching that shit. Fuck no. I haven't even watched Last of Us yet. And I was like, Last of Us is so good. I'm like, I'm sure it is. Like, it's very faithful. Great. I played the game. I already know everything that happens.
You're a hater.
I'm not a hater. I'm just kind of like, you could go back to the earliest episodes of this, or whenever this podcast has been going for a while. When they announced they were doing, even before they announced they were doing a Last of Us show, I said Last of Us should be a show. It'll be a great show. They can make a great show out of Last of Us.
Yeah, we definitely have an episode where we totally say that.
Yeah, because that's always what it wanted to be. And then they're like, oh, and then the guy who did Chernobyl, show ran for a Last of Us show, and it's great. Color me shocked.
Give me
I was the first to be
movie.
I was the first to believe in this 100%. Especially when it was Craig Mazin got brought in or whatever. I was like, oh, 100%, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great. I have quibbles, but really, it's just like it needed 3 more episodes, and it needed more infected.
But I have heard that. I have heard that there's like shockingly small amount of clickers or whatever.
When they're there, they're fucking great, but it's like they're just not. And I know the area is, it's not actually bad. Yeah, but it is though. If the world is,
you want to sell the idea that the world's gone infected or mostly infected, so you want to show it. Because I heard the underpass is just not in the show.
Right, it's not.
It's the last big moment where you have to deal with like a whole lot of fucking clickers at once going through that freeway underpass. I think it's in Colorado. Then you actually never see any clickers again for the rest of the game because it's near the end.
And I think you only really see one clicker. You see a couple, I guess. There's the kid clicker and stuff, but really, there's only one clicker that's prominent in the show. If they would have added a few more episodes and sort of like had more action in general, I think it would have been better, but it's still very good. It's just, it could have been better. Maybe next one, because they'll have more money. My last thought is I would like a Dead Space or a horror game to be made, proper horror.
Dead Space could go really well.
Dead Space.
Or it could turn out like Event Horizon. Which that's going to get me on a lot of people's shit list right there. Because during COVID, I watched Event Horizon. I think it was on HBO Max. I was like, oh, everyone talked up this movie, how great and scary it is. This movie fucking sucked.
It's for the time.
I'm like, this is 90s as shit. This is 90s Paul S. Anderson.
There's a lot of shit in the 90s that we thought was great.
I was expecting it to be way scarier, way gorier, way creepier. It's none of those things. Like, I don't know. Event Horizon, I feel like you had to be there, man, because watching this movie now, like, no, this is none of the things people say it is. Like,
it's got some goofy moments in it, yeah.
Oh, goofy, yeah. Ugh. Goofy as shit. And like, there's like one tease about like, oh, it could have been like, oh, we're gonna see how fucked up things got with the ship they're responding to. Oh no, you get like a few seconds of people like, being cannibalistic or whatever, and then that's it. Oh my god, that movie that was a massive disappointment to me.
It was low budget.
I was hyped on Event Horizon. It's Paul Anderson, W.S. Anderson's best film. It's actually scary. It's really good. It's 90s as shit is what it is.
And it's Paul W.S. Anderson.
It's a fucking 90s music video with some cheap scare, like, thrill scares or whatever in space. Like, oh my God. And I know people will be like, well, that's what Dead Space is. I'm like, ah, my God. The Dead Space, the remake, is infinitely more scary than Event Horizon. And I wasn't even scared by Dead Space remake.
So in the comments, you got to say what the game is that needs it, or what you're optimistic. Let's keep it optimistic. What is your optimistic, like, this game movie is going to be the next big hit?
I'm all in on Yakuza. I think Yakuza,
it could hit
in the right hands. Yakuza would do super well.
It's some criteria, of course. It's long running. It's got very distinct characters. It has at least a basic plot that, they can build into the story.
Yeah.
So long-standing with a lot of audience, good characters, and there's visuals. There are visual cues that could be adapted very strongly. I think that makes Yakuza a good one. But we have some producers to thank. As always, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Francis L. Thank you, Francis. And our producers for this episode are Mutton Chops Johnson. Amazing name. I got to pause. Mutton Chops Johnson. The Pink Hammer, also an amazing name. The Schmidt 1, Screwnami, Kuroi 35, Hyper Viper 89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.